I never thought of myself as a leader. As a kid, I was bossy and ambitious. Not that I knew what I wanted to do, but no one ever said, hey, you're going to be a great leader one day. They just told me I was bossy and to settle down. Leadership is an interesting word, and it conjures up all kinds of negative feelings in many people. I know some who hate that word because they associate it with evil dictators or managers who were all about the profits and didn't care about people, or even teachers who belittled them and made them feel stupid in class. But I think of leadership as a special thing. I heard somebody once define leadership as what shows up around you, the people, the results, the vibe. Your followers, your successes, they're all a reflection of the quality of your leadership. Being a bossy sister, it was amazing how reluctant I was to boss my horse, or even the team members I managed. I finally realized it was because I was afraid my horse might not like me, so I tended to allow a lot of latitude. And I did the same with people. I was more concerned about being liked and being one of them. Pretty soon the pattern started to emerge. My horse and my staff started taking advantage of me and my good nature, as it was called by one of my bosses. Well, it wasn't my good nature, it was purely and simply my lack of leadership. You can be a good-natured leader. Nothing shows it up more loudly for you than a horse. Life for horses is simple because it's safety, comfort, food, and a pecking order. That pecking order is really important to their organization and survival as a herd, and they play dominance games every day and all day long, vying for their position. And they'll do the same with you once they're over their fear of people. At first it's subtle and you don't really notice it because they are small things, but they are tests. And if you fail those tests, they go to the next level. The same happens with people. They see you are not leading, so they take over the lead. And I've done it myself. I've always been a good supporter. I love helping get things done rather than actually leading the charge. But when the leadership is weak, I step up. I'm a reluctant leader. I'm actually much more comfortable supporting the leader. But if you don't lead, I will. In my mid-20s, I was working as a receptionist for the wonderful La Bache skincare line that is marketed by Hallis Trading Company in Sydney. Although a qualified skincare therapist, I was waiting for my next opportunity and decided to accept the offer to be the receptionist. It was the best thing I could have done, and I became an integral part of Hallis Trading for the next 12 years. One day, I was asked to sit in on a product school, because although I'd trained at the La Bache school, I had never done the 3-day product school for professionals who wanted to use it. And frankly, it was agony. The day after the school ended, the management asked me what I thought of it, and I told them it was informative, but lacked the passion and excitement that I thought the product deserved. Well, you guessed it. They said, well, you run the next one. So I was put into a leadership position. I stepped up, and the rest is history. But I would never have taken it on myself to lead in this area. This actually happened a lot throughout my life. Pony Club secretary at 16 years of age, class prefect at 18, and in my 20s, the La Bache education director. I staged and managed seminars, balls, and events and clinics all over Australia. People saw the leader in me, but I was always reluctant to take the lead unless someone else was failing or not doing it right. Isn't that interesting? Teaching others leadership skills with horses really changed that, and so did my Pegasus personal development program, and becoming a business owner, because I had to step up. And here are some of the lessons that I learned along the way. Number 1, lead by example. One day my father said in jest, "Do as I say, not as I do." It was really funny because I called him out for something he would warn us kids not to do. As we were driving on an empty road, he cut the corner and crossed the center line. And I piped up and said, "Pop, you crossed the center line." And I was 8. After saying the "do as I say" line, he laughed and said, "You're right." Being 8 years old, he knew it was futile to say that this was the best way to take the corner, and the only time you can do that is when there is no one else on the road, and you still have to use your best judgment. And it's amazing how powerful those moments are. To this day, if anyone crosses a center line, I remember my dad's words, and I rarely, if ever, do that myself. As an adult, leading by example becomes even more important. I find it hard to respect people who say, "This is what you should do," and then they don't do it. For example, we need to cut costs. We need to work harder. We need to work as a team, and the leader doesn't do any of it. As a leader, I believe it's important and honorable to behave in a way you want your students, your employees, your team, or your corporation to behave, or even your kids. They're like mirrors. They reflect your values, your principles, and your relationship skills. When you look around you, are your mirrors reflecting what you want? If so, well done. And if not, what do you need to change? Number 2, have a clear vision and outcome. Anything is possible provided your vision and your outcomes are clear. But here's the challenge. Clarity is one of the most difficult things to accomplish, especially if you're a creative or ambitious person. Because there are so many ideas flying around your head all of the time, and just when you like one, another one looks even better. Until you can settle on what you want, there is no way to figure out how to do it, let alone mobilize a team to help you. Some of us have to just calm down, focus, and get clear. And you know who you are. Number 3, share your vision, the goals, and timelines, and that way your team can be empowered and get involved in the strategy and tactics to achieve them. Or they will be nothing more than mindless, unmotivated puppets waiting for you to tell them what to do. Which leads to the next one, give responsibility. My sisters always told me how bossy I was, yet in the workplace I was always reluctant to ask people to do things for me. I actually still wrestle with that, although not quite as badly. One day, a particularly enlightened employee told me that it was insulting not to be asked to do things. Whenever you don't ask me, I feel like a failure, she said, and I believe it's my job to help you. And she was better at it too. I had never looked at it that way. It was all about me feeling mean and not considering how much I was robbing others of the opportunity to step up, to help me, to feel worthy, earn their pay, and even impress me. Some people crave responsibility, but others fear it. Find out quickly who's who on your team, and then give responsibility where it's due, and remove it where it's not. Trust and be ready to correct. We've all known people who didn't trust us and people who were too quick to correct. If you don't trust, they don't grow, and if you trust too much, they might take over. And if you correct too quickly, you destroy confidence. But if you correct too late, the damage is done. You have to trust people to do what you ask, but make sure they do it, because delegation is not abdication. You have to correct people when they go off course, and the art of correction is to be fair about it and help them and you understand what's happening. It's a great idea also to make them part of the solution. In part 2, I'm going to share with you some of the difficulties that women face as leaders.